good. You're good. You're good. Let's see
He's
here.
trying to stumble me like Brent does, and I wasn't going to let him do it.
All right,
I was conducting the chorus.
John, why don't we start with you here talking about something about Twitch and finally doing something good for the people on their platform. It's weird. It sounds like something that should be real.
Yeah, it's almost like, are you sure? But it's something that I've been talking about for a long time, and that's, the music that is always covered by DMCA takedown issues with Twitch. And I've always put out, like Bass Rebels, for instance, Bass Rebels. They have non-DMCA, no copyright issues. You can use it on your Twitch cast and everything else and not have a problem. So Twitch is now introducing a new feature that gives streamers access to rights cleared music.
Ooh.
So it's basically a soundtrack by Twitch that gets rid of the DMCA takedown stuff that everybody's been really fretting over, because they'll either have silent parts being taken out of their stream or their entire stream taken down in general. Then they have trouble getting stuff back, or they had to delete their entire backlog because they lost the rights to it or whatever. And it was just a huge hassle.
Yep.
And I'm super excited to see that they're kind of really fixing this, because I like music. Music sets the tone. It's what gets everybody excited. You have a particular interest or a particular like in music that gets other people involved and get them, immersion into watching and listening to what you're talking about. And I feel like this is super important for something like Twitch to ultimately succeed. Really, any streaming video watching service that you're going to have, because it's just it brings out the personality in the streamer, whereas and a lot less just stress. I mean, I don't stream personally. I know you do, Tumbleweed. I don't know how you feel about it, but I would be personally excited.
Yeah, no, I think it's one of the best moves that Twitch has done in a long time. But it also shows that they have capabilities that they can do on their end that they haven't utilized before. And so I think one of the biggest strengths of it is that it separates the audio out automatically into its own channel, right?
Yeah.
And so if you download your VOD, your music is separate from it, which is convenient.
Well, that's cool.
And so when you think about it from, when I use OBS, I build all that myself. So for people that maybe, don't have voice meter or don't have a Go XLR and they struggle with multi-tracks, this could be very convenient for you to still keep music. I hope that they open the doors of integration to people that had already built out these huge libraries of music that you could subscribe to or offered free. Big YouTuber I follow, Alpha Gaming, Harris Heller. He's created tons of music with his stream beats. And so if they could work together and he could merge all that in there, that would be super convenient. I personally have a subscription to Epidemic Sound. And so Epidemic has all their music, and I have to put my Twitch channel in there. So if they could let Epidemic merge its library in, it would make all these convenience features. And I hope that that's how they evolve it.
Yeah, actually, Epidemic Sound's one of the places where the soundtrack for this podcast comes from. The intro song comes from,
which I love, by the way, Mark. I'm so happy you found that, because when I listen to it now, I'm like, yeah, it sounds chill.
Yeah, dude, it's good. But it's great that this also puts Twitch on, another even peg with YouTube, right? As YouTube is coming into the streaming space, and YouTube has always had its music library, even though so many YouTube creators forget it exists. It has its own whitelisted music. It has its own whitelisted sound effects. So Twitch has got that now, right? Yep. We're slowly seeing this come together and where they can compete a little easier. So I'm excited for the future of Twitch.
To be fair, I understand where they're coming from with being a little bit more skeptic too, because you don't want something to change. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that, Google has done something and completely reversed something, and all of a sudden now you're SOL and everything that you did was a waste of time. I wouldn't want to take that risk personally. But the fact that they separated the track from the VOD is huge, and you're not going to have to worry about, any copyright strikes or any muting.
The benefit of playing the song straight from Twitch is you're not going to have to worry about the copyright strike in the first place. But like when downloading the VOD, it makes sense if you're going to edit, for example, your music is separate from your voice if you want to re-edit or something like that, because that's how a lot of streamers do that too. Is maybe they don't record locally, they instead wait for the VOD to come out, download the VOD, and then work with that, or their editor, will take the VOD, download that, edit it, and then upload for clips for YouTube. So that, like, I think that's a really good feature to have. I'm always a devil's advocate or an other side of the wall kind of person. So here's my concern is YouTube has the same kind of offering whenever it comes to editing videos where you can download. I don't want to answer that right now. No, so YouTube has the same kind of offering though, where you can download some of the available copyright-free audio that they make available to you and make the, you can use that with whatever you want to, it's good for background on vlogs and whatever else. But the selection is rather limited. Now, I haven't actually seen this, so I don't quite know yet.
I can imagine that being true.
But the selection is rather limited, and with thousands to, hundreds of thousands to tens of millions of creators out on the platform, that stuff can kind of get worn down pretty easy. Now, for Twitch streams, it's a little different because most people don't have that as a primary song really blaring in the background. A lot of that stuff's just background music to add as good filler. But for YouTube videos, I know that's primarily something you hear pretty often. Like, I've heard the same song. I've heard the song that we use even from Epidemic Sound, called Duck in a Box. I've heard that used by several other YouTube channels, Potato Jet being one of the more prominent ones. I've heard the same song that we use for this podcast on his channel several times as background music.
I don't blame him. It's a great song.
It is. It's got a good beat to it. But the problem you run into, I think, is if Twitch doesn't offer a big enough soundtrack set, then I think it's going to get overused and it's going to sound generic at a certain point, just because it's going to be an overused sound.
And that's cool. And, and Kepley said, there's other ways to get around it too. There are other means of getting copyright-free music. Like I said, Bass Rebels being one of them.
Yeah, Epidemic Sound, whatever, other subscription services that allow that kind of thing or enable that.
Just got to do a little bit more work for it. But, if you want something that just fits the mood and it fits the track, cool. A lot of times it's more of like a transition piece or something like that. It's not really a big deal. Because normally for like what we have for the intro, you have something specific that you like or whatever, or the outro, and you're going to end up using that. Or like, for instance, on Game Scoop, Damon Hatfield uses his music for the outro, and he actually creates his own music. So there's always that option too. So
I'm
you're a little bit more musically inclined anyway.
Yeah.
I'm curious because I haven't seen where anyone's clarified this, but the music is copyright free on Twitch. But if I were to download that and I really like this song and I take pieces of it and I put it on YouTube, is it still whitelisted, right? And I think that's when you're really going to gauge like how good this soundtrack is, because you have to have stuff like Stream Beats, for example, with Harris Heller, because that's the one I'm most familiar with. Super good audio selection, but for a short time there, he had issues to where Twitch, everything was good, but on YouTube, the way the algorithm read it, even though he said it was whitelisted and it was free, they would copyright strike it. And so he had to work with people to remove that. And so when Twitch is going to these artists and they're saying, hey, we want to use your music, build us music, because I think they put out a tweet, I'd have to go look. They put out a tweet of like, hey, if you're an artist and you want to work with us, send us music, let us know we can use, right? And so is that artist going to give you licensed stuff just for Twitch? And then there's going to be other conditions that you have to do for YouTube or whatever your platform is, TikTok, wherever you go from there. And that's going to be a whole other conversation you think about when it comes to this music.
And unfortunately, as we go into this beautiful age of technology, there are more and more stipulations. So there's got to be some kind of general agreement that's going to have to start being made. Like if it's created on a system that it was free, then wherever it is transferred or played from is given, some kind of agreement.
Yes and no. I mean, the thing is that you have to sign a consent, or you part of your terms and conditions anywhere, an updated terms and conditions, is that it's a consent agreement to say, like as far as the music creators can go, like the consent agreement between them and Twitch is that Twitch can use it in whichever way they want to. But you as a creator on Twitch could flat out say, now don't get me wrong, it would hurt them to do so, I think, because like there are tons and tons of Twitch creators or streamers that also are YouTube creators with the same content that they record. You know, it's not like Twitch owns the content that you stream to them exclusively. So it's going to be a hard spot and realistically, nobody's going to know until it happens. You know, until somebody finally uploads content with something from this Twitch soundtrack or soundtrack by Twitch that, you know, suddenly either Twitch copyright strikes or doesn't. So
yeah, and that's the important caveat to what I mentioned earlier with that is something they called out in why it's a separate audio chat is they said because if licensing changes, then we don't have to mute your VOD and then we don't have to remove your video, right? Because they could just cut that track instead of cutting your whole video. So the problem with it now is if I play copyrighted music, it'll automatically go in, it'll mute, we'll say 2 hours of my stream because I'm just talking or gaming with music in the background. And so now what this would allow is if whatever music is on that platform, if say 3 weeks from now, John says, hey, Twitch, you're not using my music anymore. I don't give you that rights. They can't use it on the site anymore. And so then they have to go and remove those tracks from everything. And so to keep your VOD alive, it's on a separate audio track. So you don't have to go do mass removals of clips like we had recently with all that drama.
I mean, I guess it depends on how they
to be something smart done in the fact of the contract saying any creation made before this date or before the date that you asked for it to be removed is clear. Like you don't have a choice. It's like a movie, for instance. If I go and watch a movie from 1994, that music is still on there. It's done. Yeah, it's been created. It's out in the wild.
The idea is that generally the license for that is in perpetuity. Like I would imagine that Google, for example, with the library of music that they have available for YouTube creators, I'd imagine the licensure for that is in perpetuity. Because, for example, with YouTube creators, if let's say, for example, they left a loophole that left access for the creator to remove or the publisher to remove that access from Google. Well, then any video that's come out with that, I mean, short of the contract having an exemption for that, any video that has that music in it would have to have all of its audio pulled, or the video itself would have to get pulled.
Yeah.
Or just monetization, to be fair.
Again, it's going to take some people taking the time to do it right the first time so we don't have this crap happen because we know it's going to. We are all talking about this for that reason. I'm more of an optimist because I'm not in this genre, and that's why I love you guys, because when I'm an optimist, you guys know when to be the pessimist and vice versa. I
mean, to be fair, I'm the optimist in this scenario too, of like really what I believe is going to happen is I think Twitch is going to set this up. It's going to be available to everyone. And as soon as it is available to everyone, they probably have contracts set up in perpetuity. Jeff Bezos and his entire team is not stupid by any means. You know, they'll know what to do as far as that goes to protect themselves. Is even if
with Luna coming out, that makes sense that they want to perfect this.
Well, yeah. I mean, they want to add to the streaming platform, you know, too, which makes sense. But I guess my thing is, if they're going to set this up and make this available to everyone, it would be stupid for them to not allow Twitch creators to also be able to use the same music on YouTube.
Yeah,
I
just like actually, and I don't know this offhand. Can you use YouTube's like copyrighted stuff or YouTube's creator what do you call it, their library of music available on Twitch?
Some of them, but there's other ones that you can only use if you call out to the person that made it. Right, and so in some of those you'll have to click on. You can use this if you put this in the description.
Well, yeah, but YouTube makes anyway. YouTube makes those very clear though to say that you have to put some sort of like rights to this anyway, and YouTube does it automatically as well if I remember right. Like it actually will place a music thing somewhere on it if you're using something from their library. But
I think so, but
or they make it easier, or they make it easier for you to do so. They may not do it automatically because you have to edit the video in, but they make it easier to do so anyway. But like the idea is, yeah, sure. Like for that stuff, sure. But like most of the stuff that I've ever pulled from YouTube from their available library, I've made sure that it's something that doesn't require that call out because I don't particularly care to do so anyway. And God forbid I make a mistake on that and not do it, So I mean, I can find plenty of decent content in there. So, I mean, if that's the case and I can use that on Twitch would be kind of stupid to not be able to reciprocate that same level of content. Not to mention that also makes that content creators on both sides, on both platforms, then have very large, very different libraries to pull from to be able to put that stuff in there. And not to mention even the stuff that's available for both platforms would then be much easier to implement in both platforms.
It just seems disadvantageous to not have a video on your thing making you add money when you can. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to want to take care of business.
But devil's advocate to that is we've seen more and more the battle for exclusivity.
Yeah.
And so this would just be another way to drive that, right?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. The stakes probably going to come somewhere or another, but hopefully they iron it out beforehand.
Yeah. I agree. And I think it's interesting when it comes to music. Like, for example, if I'm Twitch, I think this platform is awesome. I think it's cool. But I take more time on this to work with whoever the powers that be are to partner with Amazon Music and actually give a purpose to Amazon Music, where Amazon Music library synchronizes with Twitch, and you're paying with your Twitch Prime the rights to use that music on your stream. I think that would have been a much better play.
Oh, I mean, the big play that Amazon could really go for there is working with a publisher to say, hey, we want to make all of your content from all of your artists available on our Twitch platform.
And we're starting to see that, and I think that's going to evolve more. A great example is Logic, one of my favorite artists. He's furious because he wants everyone to be able to use his music, but the publisher will not let them. And so he's saying, I made these songs. This is my music. I want all these Twitch streamers to use it. And the publisher's like, no. We're going to block that.
He can't do that until
Taylor Swift. She knows it all too well.
Yeah. Well, and the problem is he can't make that move until his contract with his current publisher expires, and either he signs a new contract or makes his own publishing company to be able to release any new songs, of course, because the previous publisher owns any of his previous songs, like that for free. So, I think that's an interesting standpoint to take. I like Logic is one of my favorite people as far as how he handles his own position in the music career too.
Why doesn't he buy back the rights?
So the problem is that the publisher can set the price on that.
Yeah, I mean,
if he's the only buyer, they set the price at whatever the hell they want to make it. They can make it $100 million for a single song if they really wanted to, and not give up the rights because they think they're going to be able to make more money on that in perpetuity. Like, what's the point?
Anybody who's actually a fan of him would just go out and say, you know what?
But
don't play my song ever again.
Part of that is, under that publisher, if he signs with a new publisher, just like what Taylor Swift ran into the issue with, if they don't want to, like, Taylor Swift literally can't perform some of those original songs in concerts anymore because she doesn't own the rights to them, even though she created them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's the unfortunate truth there is if you push back against those publishers, they have the ability to cut off your ability to use your own songs at a certain point. And unfortunately, that's the money grab of the industry. But
well, hopefully Amazon's got their stuff together, and with Luna coming down the way, I hope that that gets solidified. Not to mention Stadia has their own thing going on, and we've got a lot of new stuff happening with Stadia, and hopefully that they do something similar. So that way we can kind of have like a nice transition between the Google products and the Twitch products.
Yeah. We'll see. Kep, you had one more point or?
No, I'm good on that one.
All right. Well, speaking of Stadia, our own Tumbleweed has a particular.